if you've been trying to be very healthy and you feel that you are doing everything, you are exercising, you are eating well, but you find that for some reason, you've got all these symptoms that you really cannot put your finger on. And I can tell you that one of the most common problem is food intolerances. And people are very aware of food allergies, like a peanut allergy. That is something that is very clear. You eat peanuts, you get swollen, you get itchy, and it's an immediate acute problem. But food intolerances are very, very prevalent, and you would ask yourself why is it that there's more intolerances? And this is just because of our lifestyle. We have really changed the way our gut health is. So in other words, the lining of the gut, the diversity of the microbes that are in the gut. So all these things, they've got to do with how the gut and the microbes interact with the immune system. So we use a lot of medications. We're using lots of antibiotics. We use antacids, proton pump inhibitors, contraception, and also like steroids. So all these medications, there's a place for them. They are very useful, but if we use them excessively and after we use them we don't do anything to help and support the gut, we end up with this leaky gut situation where things that ideally would not pass the gut barrier, they are now able to pass the gut barrier, and on the other side the immune system is there and recognize all these protein chunks, and the immune system just goes haywire. And then when the immune system does that, this is the inflammation part of what we talk about. You get inflamed, and then the inflammation manifests as different symptoms in different people. For some people it will be fatigue, it could be joint pain, it could be migraines, it could be insomnia. In some people it's just like a puffy looking, a puffy look. And this is why you find that when a person identifies their food intolerances, and I've seen this over and over again, apart from the fact that like their symptoms like migraine will go, is that they will lose weight. They will lose this sort of inflammatory weight. So how do you know if you've got food intolerances? Well, if you're not very good at listening to your body, you might need to do a test. But having said that, some of these symptoms, you might not even relate them to the food that you're eating, because this part of the immune system that I'm talking about that gets upregulated, it's something that has got a delayed onset. So you could eat pizza on Friday, right? And then come Monday morning in the office, you are really fatigued, your body feels heavy, your brain feels foggy, just because of pizza that you ate on Friday. So there are certain foods that maybe if you don't have access to testing, but you've got these symptoms that I've described, you could also just remove these foods from your diet and see how you feel. But a more specific way of doing this is to do a food intolerance test to identify what foods your immune system is having problems with. So this is not a permanent situation of food intolerances. It's a situation that happens as long as you're consuming those foods, as long as you haven't healed the gut. So what's important is to identify these foods, remove them, support and heal the gut. Because if you have this situation of a leaky gut and the immune system being upregulated all the time, of course, one of the things that you get is fatigue, because about 40% of the energy in the body goes to the immune system. So can you imagine if you're eating gluten and you are intolerant to gluten, you eat it for breakfast, maybe as a toast, you eat it for lunch as pasta, and you eat it for dinner as pizza. You can see how this can become a big problem. And most of the people that have got autoimmune diseases is usually they start with this situation of a leaky gut. They keep on eating these foods that have got these problematic proteins, but they are just problematic just because there is there's a leaky gut. But if you don't have the ability to test, do an experiment. Take out certain foods that have got these proteins that can be very immunogenic. So these are proteins that are very complex to digest, and they can cause the immune system to be hyperregulated in people that have got a leaky gut. But if the gut is good, the gut is not leaking, there's no problem there. But once you've got a leaky gut, there's certain proteins like gluten proteins that are called glutamorphins, and also in dairy there's something called casomorphins. So these molecules can actually cross the blood-brain barrier, and they cause an addiction. And this is why you find that if you tell somebody to stop eating gluten and to stop eating dairy, it can be very difficult, because these two proteins can act almost like in an addictive manner, like really like morphine. So basically, if you want to feel good, you want to have energy, you want to lose weight, you want a sharp brain, and that's not happening despite you believing that you're doing everything healthy, think about food intolerances. And another way of supporting, so that your immune system is not so intolerant, is to support your digestion. So in other words, if you've got enough stomach acid, if you've got enough proteolytic enzymes that coming from your pancreas, and you're producing enough bile. And this is also a very important point, is for the people that don't have a gallbladder anymore, that has been removed, they are more likely to have food intolerances, because the digestion is poor. Also, for people that are taking proton pump inhibitors, taking these antacids, they are also more likely to have food intolerances, because they're not digesting the food very well. Another thing that can lead to all these multiple intolerances is also when somebody is very stressed. They've got a hectic schedule, they are not really having time to sit down, breathe, and digest their food. So I want you to know that food intolerances are real, and but it's something that you can identify, something that you can address, because as long as you are dealing with these proteins that are problematic, it's very difficult to feel and enjoy optimum health.